Welcome to the Lechtich Parsha podcast, where we delve into the Torah's timeless wisdom and uncover uplifting and empowering lessons tailored to the challenges of our generation.
This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Going on to Kino Yud Aleph. So Kino Yud Aleph, as much as we thought Churban Abayis was abstract and distant, we don't really understand it. Going to Kino Yud Aleph, Vayikoinin Yirmiyahu Yeshayahu. If you look in the notes of you in the art scroll, this Kino is the most important and authentic lament we recite on Tisha B'Av. Hayitachin, you have a lament, you have a Kino about a king, Melech Yeshayahu. How do we connect to that? How does that make us sad? Most important, seems very bold. So just to understand briefly the history and what happened over here. This Kino, remember one of the greatest kings we ever had, which was Yeshayahu Melech. He wasn't Stam a king. He was the greatest king perhaps that ever lived. The Pasuk in Malachim, Perek Chav Gimel, Pasuk Chav Hey, is made on Yeshayahu Melech. This encapsulates his greatness. And like him, I don't have the Hebrew, and like him, there was no king before him who returned to Hashem with all his heart and all his soul and with all his resources in accordance with all the Torah teachings of Moshe. And after him, no one arose like him. So you obviously see he was tremendously chashuv, not just king, but a person. And he became a king at a very young age, and he completely changed Klal Yisrael. It was a time of tremendous nisyonis, especially of Avodah Zarah. And he was a tremendous kanai, like Pinchas. He went and he tore down the idols like Avam and Terach, and he destroyed the bamas of Avodah Zarah, the altars of idolatry. And most importantly, he repaired the Beis HaMikdash. There were repairs that needed to be done in the Beis HaMikdash. He found the law Sefer Torah, and he repaired that. And ultimately, he inspired Gans Klal Yisrael to tshuva. But then what happened was, Paranichai wanted to pass through Eretz Yisrael, and the Navi Yirmiyahu, who's Vayikoinin Yirmiyahu, talking about Yeshayahu's mistake, Yirmiyahu told Yeshayahu not to stop him. Let Paranicho come through. And Yeshayahu thought otherwise. And what happened was that at Migdoi, the arrow struck and killed Yeshayahu, and that entire spiritual revival came to a close. And that was the introduction, the phase right before the Churban Abayis. And while we cry today, why it's sad and why there's a whole Kino and why it's the most important Kino, is because Yeshayahu showed us what true leadership is all about. True leadership is being fully committed to the Eibishter, courage to fight. In his case, it was Avodah Zarah on a global, national level. Restoring the Beis HaMikdash, restoring the Shechina, bringing it back, fighting for the Emes, fighting for the Shechina Kedosha. And of course, he was able to inspire, able to ignite mass tshuva movement. He was Rav Noach Weinberg, he was Rabbi Sol Salanter, he was the entire tshuva movement. It all began with Yeshayahu Navi. But of course, we'd be remiss to try to gain Hisiris from a king that lived thousands of years ago if it wasn't directly relevant and connectable to us. What was the godless? So what are we lamenting? What are we being mekainin? What was Yirmiyahu's kina over Yeshayahu? Was that he realized that there was a Klal Yisrael that was so far, so distant, so removed. He realized that the Shekhinah had to be restored. He realized that Avodah Zarah permeated the entire culture, and he fought for that. And he realized, how did he do that? One person against the entire Klal Yisrael? He realized, as we spoke about before, Pasuk in, I think it's one of the Nevi'im, Yeshayahu, or one of the Nevi'im, Amich Kulam Tzadikim, it's a Pasuk. He realized that there's a Pintel Yid, he realized there's a fire that burns in every Yid, and he was able to attach, he was able to latch on to that Pnim, to that burning fire. He didn't create something new, but he lit up something that was already present, and he was able to inspire a tshuva movement like none other, and like the Pasuk Malachim says, there was no king like him that ever did such a thing, and that is the kin about Yeshayahu. But what does that have to do with us? So I'll tell you what I think. I think one of the most incredible stories I think I ever heard. Heard this from Rav Moshe Weinberger of Eish Kodesh. And the Maisa goes that when the Baba Rebbe, Rav Shlomo Halberstam, he arrived in the American shores after the war. He had a son with him, Naftolchik, and a few close Hasidim. And at the time, they settled in the Upper West Side. Friday night, Shabbos came. So the Rebbe told his son Naftolchik, Tolchik, get and gas, go on the street, and let's go, let's put together a minyan. So Naftolchik looked at the Rebbe, looked at his father and said, Tati, this isn't Babov, this is the Upper West Side, post-Holocaust. Where exactly do you think we're getting a minyan? And the Rebbe said, go. When the Rebbe says go, you go. And he went. And he was able to scramble, put together 7 others. 7 plus them 2, he had 9. He went back in, came to his father, he said, this is, and he said, go back out, and we're going to find the minyan. He went out, and he saw a guy smoking. But he had a Hajjus upon him. And he said, Rabbi Yid. And he said, how do you know I'm a Yid? And he said, you look like a Yid. He said, could you come join us for tefillas tonight? He said, sure. He came in, smelling like smoke with his jeans, shit off the street. Still not sure how he understood that he was a Yid, but okay. He came in, and this Yid said, I'm coming in there with one condition. He told the Rebbe, he said, I'm only joining your minyan if you let me down for the Amud. So the Rebbe said, for sure, no problem. And he conducted the most beautiful tefillah the Rebbe ever heard. Beautiful voice, chazanas, all the dikdukim, stunning. And every week became the custom. They would be able to scramble a minyan together, and they would always wait for this Yid number 10 to pull through, and week after week. He would come back, he would down for the Amud, and they never really exchanged any information, what's your name, where do you come from, but that was the minyan. And after months passed, And Shkia came, 72 came, Tzeis came, and there's no minyan. The Yid didn't come. And the Rebbe looked at Rebbe Navtolchik. He said, "We need a minyan, go out on the streets and go find our 10th man." And he looked around, nothing doing. No sign of their 10th man. And the Rebbe said, "Keep on looking, you're going to find them." Looking, and finally he sees from a distance. You know, in the army, you're not allowed to smoke because the butt couldn't shine from miles and miles away. And his cigarette butt was lit up. And Avtolchik approached him in the smoke and everything. He said, what happened? And he said, "I had enough. I'm not coming back. Can't do it anymore." He didn't want to push. He wanted to give him his space. He went back to the Rebbe and he said, "Ta." He said, "I looked around. Fortunately, I found him. I found the center. But he's not coming with us tonight. He had enough." And Reb Shlomo looked at his son and he said, "Go back." He tried again. The Rebbe was persistent. He tried to grab him back. And he said, "I'm not coming. I'm broken. I'm shattered. I lost everything in the war. My wife, my kids, my parents. My babies were shot right in front of my face. I had enough. I'm not coming back." And Tolchik went back to the Rebbe and said, "Rebbe, Tati, you don't understand. He's not coming back." Until the Rebbe went out and said, "Unser Center. What's going to be? We need it for minyan." And he looked at the Rebbe and he said, "Rebbe, you don't understand. I told your son, but I'm going to tell you. I had such a beautiful family. A wife and kids and parents. And they were all shot right in front of my face. The pain is too great. The anguish is too heavy. I give up. I am done. Please do not ask me anymore." Took a puff, took a hit of his cigarette, relieved some stress. And the Rebbe looked at him and he said, "There's no way this is going to happen." "You got it all wrong," the Rebbe said. He said, "I'm done. I'm smoking. It's trauma. I can't do it. It's pain. Please leave me alone." And the Rebbe looked at him and he said in Yiddish, he said, "You think it's you that's smoking on Shabbos? You think it's the pain that you carry with you that's making you smoke on Shabbos? And the trauma and the loss and the tragedy, it's all real. But right now, the reason why you're being mechal, the reason why you're smoking, it's not you. It's the German inside of you. It's the German, it's the Nazi inside of you that's trying to take you down. That's going to ensure that you give everything up. That you're going to succumb to everything the Nazis tried to accomplish. And I'm going to give you a few moments to ponder and to reflect and to realize that this is not you. You, Yankala, you're not wearing jeans on Shabbos, you're not smoking, you're not zebrachin, you're chelek alakam imal, you're a neshama tahira, and Hashem wants you." And the Rebbe left him, went back to the shtibel, went back to the shul, and sure enough, a few minutes later, from the streets, smiling with all the smoke, he came back in tears. He came back about Shabbos and he davened. And years later, they disconnected, they forgot about each other. Years later, on a Friday night, the Rebbe was davening, and in walked a yid with a shtreimel, with a langa, vice bard. This is already way after the Rebbe became the Baba of the Rebbe, well known. And this yid came over to the Rebbe and said, "You probably don't remember me." And he said, "I really don't, but Shalom Aleichem, good Shabbos. What's your name? Who are you?" And he said, "I'm the center. I'm that 10th man that you could have left on the street. You could have left me smoking. You could have let me become a victim to all my trauma and pain. But you didn't give up on me. You didn't leave me abandoned and forlorn. You trusted me, and you reminded me that I'm wanted, that I have value, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants me. And ever since then, I realized that it's Taka, the German inside of me, that's taking me down. And after they shot out my entire family, I decided at that moment I'm taking the initiative, I'm taking the stance, and I will shoot, I will destroy now that German inside of me. I changed the entire course of my life. I came back. He rebuilt. He's a beautiful family. Yiddish Nachas Kinder. Zer Shel Kayama. Vaikoinin Yirmiyo al Yeshiyo. The lament, yes, was for Yeshiyo on all that he accomplished, on all that he done, on the truth that he inspired, they ignited. But for all of us, there are people we're supposed to come. There are she'ifas, there's a vision. We just said Shabbos Chazoin. Chazoin means a vision. And we're reminded during this time, as broken and as shattered and surrounded by tragedy as we are, on Tisha B'Av, there's an avodah, there's a mandate, there's a directive. And Hashem says, remember me, remember that there was Churban Abayis, but remember that there's rebuilding, remember that there's Gula, redemption. And remember that there's not just redemption for the Beis HaMikdash, but there's redemption, there's building for each and every Yid. To rebuild, to realign with that vision, to realign with what we're meant to be, what we're meant to become. And as we read this Kinnah of destruction over this great Yeshiyahu HaMelech, we all have to think, envision in our mind during this Kinnah, where am I meant to be, what am I meant to become? What are the dreams? The vision that Hashem had when He created me? And while we lament and we think about Churban on Tisha B'Av, let's think about ourselves. Let's think about what we can become. And when we envision and try to readjust, realign with what we're supposed to become, with the binyanim that we're supposed to become, that will give Hashem nachas ruach, and that will hopefully be a catalyst for HaKadosh Baruch Hu to rebuild the Beis HaMikdash for all of us soon to come.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
I thank each and every one of you for listening. I hope you enjoyed, and I wish you a wonderful Shabbos.